Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today we're going to talk about some foot percussion. In other words, percussion that you play with one of your feet. In this case, for me, it's my left foot, the hi-hat foot. The last video I did was on the Remo Mondo snare drum, and I was playing a left foot cabasa, this thing right here. I got a lot of questions, a lot of emails about that, and so I thought, well, probably most of you don't know about this, but it's been out for quite a while. So let me just do a video on this thing and some of these other things that I use with my feet. I also have many other things I use with my feet. I have a shikare that I use like a hi-hat that you might have seen in some of the other very early videos, because it since has broken. I need to fix it. But these are all things I use on a regular basis on gigs, when I have to cover an extra part, or if I'm with the orchestra and we might have to cover a tambourine part that we can't do because we're using our hands already. That tambourine foot pedal works great. This works great, this woodblock, as a clave pedal. We have a maraca pedal, and we have this pretty cool Meinl snare box here, which is like a mini cajon, which works nicely too for lots of different things. So what I'll do is I'll talk about these pedals a little, and then I'll take each one over to the drum set and show you how I use them. But first we'll talk about them. Just letting you know, I do not endorse any of these companies. I have no endorsements with LP, who makes the Gajite bracket, or Pearl that makes this pedal, or Meinl. I just use these products because I like them. So there's no payment to me or anything else involved in these things. It's basically a tiny little cajon that has a snare built into it, just like a regular cajon. You cannot deactivate it. And it's also got this pretty neat pedal here, a custom bent beater. Now this one came with the pedal. You don't have to buy it with the pedal. But if you do, I'd recommend buying it with the beater, because the beater, you'll have to bend that yourself, the way it works, as you see, like that. So this thing is great for just keeping time with your left foot, and you don't want it to be too obnoxious like a tambourine might be, or a cowbell, or a woodblock. So next we have this woodblock pedal here. Now I made this years ago because I was tired of breaking wooden woodblocks, which happens if you're playing clave on them and you get a little too excited. So I took this granite block. This is an LP granite block. It's seen better days, as you can tell. And I mounted it on a piece of wood because the original mount broke as well after 100 gigs or so. And this is held up now for about 10 years. No problems at all. It's very rudimentary, as you see. A couple big screws there. Holds the wood block on, which normally is in a set of 5 or 6 as tempo blocks. So it's really a tempo block, but it's a wood block, okay? Because tempo blocks are normally bigger, but they list them as tempo block. So, but again, it's the LP granite block, and they're gray, that's how you know. It makes a really good, loud, like I said, kind of obnoxious clave, or if you need to play a wood block with your left foot. And this right here is, I'm going to take this apart here. This is the LP Gajite. I think that's how you say it. Probably wrong. Or gadget, if you want to say it like that. Pedal or bracket, and the pedal attaches to the bracket. And this part goes up and down, so you can use really anything with it. You'll see that I have one here with the tambourine, and also a different one with the maraca, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, it's very simple. You have the spurs here, which are sharp on one end, and they have a rubber tip, so you can flip them. All right, but I normally leave them on the sharp end, and I'll use a rug. And then this is just a regular old, very old, Pearl chain drive pedal. And I like this beater, this Pearl beater, because it's got 4 different sides, so I can literally switch it when I'm playing if I want it to be softer, just like that. I put some moleskin, which is people use for bunions, you can get at the drugstore on one of the hard ends. So I have literally 4 different surfaces in one beater. So it's very, very handy. So if you want it to be less obnoxious, you would use one of the softer felt ends. And you can twist it like this. It will not strip, or mine hasn't yet, and I've been doing it for years. All right, so we'll put this back together real quick. Now you got to make sure when you're doing these things, you're putting them together, that you use a wrench to tighten them, because the power of your foot over 2 or 3 tunes will loosen them always. So normally I'll just crank it down with a wrench, and then you should be okay. But there's nothing worse than playing a tune and having this thing fall apart, which can happen. The next thing we have here in the middle is this LP maraca, which is really kind of a brilliant idea. So what happens with this thing, hopefully you can see it, and all these are online if you Google them, but this thing goes between 2 of these very soft rubber surfaces, and you get a shaking effect without too much noise on the hit. Just a little bit. And you can move this up or down. Now, as you move it up, what happens is it restricts the movement of the actual maraca, which is one of their plastic maracas. So I like to leave it down a little bit like this, just above the metal piece on the maraca. I've experimented with it. No matter what, you're going to get a little residual noise. That's the quietest it's going to be, though, just above the metal. And the metal is hitting slightly on the backstroke. Okay, for some reason, as you lower it, it gets noisier. And this really is almost a one-trick pony. You can go straight on it, just straight 16ths or 8ths. But when I go over there, you'll see I use some kind of exotic foot technique with my left foot that I use on my hi-hat, that you can get some pretty cool rhythms with this. So I've used this lots and lots with different ensembles. I use it on theater gigs and things like that. So really a great little device. This next one, you saw me using that Remo Mondo snare video, and I got so many questions on it. This is the Meinl foot cabasa. It's been around for quite some time. I think it was an ingenious invention. It's not very loud, but I use it a lot. We just used it recently with the symphony. We were playing some silly arrangement of Moana or something, and we needed it to cover a part. So got our feet free, so there you go. We can cover that. We can't have an extra player on the gig. So the way this works, same as the maraca, but it's not going to sound great now because it's not attached to. It's floating, so when I hit it with my hand, it bounces around. So this kind of needs your foot. Now you can adjust the throw of it with this screw, and what'll happen is you can loosen it up and get some different rhythms with it, which is pretty neat. And I'll show you that when I'm over there. All right, so it's very adjustable, but it's a little bit finicky, and sometimes it'll come loose. There's this pad under there that catches the maraca. I mean, the cabasa, sorry. You got to make sure it's touching it. So this has to be pretty much tight all over the place. It is a little bit flimsy, but if you tighten it up pretty good and you know its deficiencies, you can use it well. All right, so that's what this is, a foot cabasa. And finally, we have this LP Gagite bracket with this Rhythm Tech tambourine. Now, all of you have seen these mounted tambourines, no secret. But you can mount that to a pedal, obviously. And when you do that, you need to have the beater hit right in the middle of it. If you don't, it'll get stuck under there. So if you use a regular beater, well, you can't use a regular beater. It's too risky. So what you need to do is use something wooden. This one has seen better days, all right, but it works on that. There's some others here that I use. These are made by this company, Sidekick Drums. Again, no endorsement. I just bought these. They make a lot of really neat little attachments for your bass drum pedal. Hope you can see those. You can look them up. I don't know anybody there. I think I bought these on Reverb, but that's that's a drumstick. It looks a little creepy actually, but that's a drumstick. I've never not used this one, but I guess it would be okay if you used like a foot bongo or something. And this is really cool. I have used this one. That is a bundle, or ruta as they call it, but you know, it's actually a bass drum beater. And I've used this on the tambourine when I want a very quiet tambourine, even on the wood block. It's great. Now this will break though, so this is my second one that I'm through, because the first one I broke. All right, but all these are really cool. This is very soft, this little nylon brush here. All right, so that's an alternative. But normally on this tambourine, you want to use a wood, some sort of wood beater that's got length to it, so it's not going to slip under there, which it will, and then you're stuck when you're playing, obviously. Then you just have to free it. This tambourine is just a regular Rhythm Tech. Every company that I know of offers a mounted tambourine now. Meinl and Pearl, and really, all these companies offer really good ones. So this, like I said, Rhythm Tech. So you might want to experiment. I have 5 or 6 different tambourines. This is the one I use. It's just kind of a garden variety, bright tambourine. And I just, you know, I just use it. But if I'm not happy with the sound, I'll switch to something with different jingles. You can also mount a regular tambourine on it with a head. I've done that. I don't have that here. That's at the university right now. But and then you need to use a soft, fluffy beater, and then that's a pretty nice sound. It rings a little, and so really, the moral of the story is you can mount anything on a pedal as long as there's a clamp for it. You know, whatever you can imagine in your head can be mounted. I even mounted a triangle once with that. So the Miller machine, Billy Miller makes the triangle machine. I was messing around with mounting that. Maybe I'll put that back together and do a little video on that. That was really funny, but it didn't work great because it wasn't loud enough. But you know, sometimes you get into these jams where you have to play things that you can't. You only got 2 hands. You know, we don't have 3 or any more than that. So you've got to use your feet. So next we're going to go over to the drum set, and I'll play each one of these for a little while and just show you what they sound like. You may like them, you may not. But there is a use for all of these. And by the way, this, I forgot one thing here before we leave. This is just the part of an old Mike Balter marimba mallet, a cheap student mallet. And this makes a great clave mallet because, again, it's not too obnoxious. So all you do is you just cut it, and it fits. You could trim it down with a, whittle it down with a pocket knife. It fits right in the bass drum pedal socket there. And I have, these are so cheap. I am a Mike Balter endorser. Vic Firth sells them now, but I have probably 50 of these things. So if they break, I don't care. I just go through them. So I use this a lot. And the other thing I forgot is this little clave bell. These used to be made by Pete Engelhardt Percussion, and they were very expensive. But Gunbops makes a version of this now. I think Pete Engelhardt makes them for Gunbops, and they're cheaper for whatever reason. These sound great on your foot, all right? And they cut through. You can muffle it. And it sounds really good with this rubber mallet. So that's a good combination. It does not sound good with the bass drum beater. It's overkill. All right, so just a few little tips that I've discovered doing this for years and years. And these bells are great. I really like them. They sound great. LP also makes these little red and I think blue clave bells. They're not as good. They're very high pitched. This one you have more options because you can dampen it down with some moon gel or just put a cloth in there, and it sounds great. Or it's basically 2 bells in one. All right, so we'll go over to the drum set and we'll see what these sound like. So here we are at the drums. I put a couple pedals down here, the tambourine pedal and the woodblock pedal to start with. I still have this Mondo snare drum set up, and these Craviotto drums and my old Ks. So this is just a set I've been using for a session recently. And the other pedals are here. So we'll start out with this clave pedal, since all of you are familiar with this and you've heard me play it many times. I'll just use these broomsticks here, and we'll just play a little. So you see I'm using the softer side of the pedal on the woodblock or the beater. If I go to the harder side, it's going to be very, very loud. And I would do that if I was playing with sticks. So I'll show you that. So a lot more aggressive. So you have the ability to just reach down and turn that pedal, or again I keep saying pedal, but the beater, and change the sound. So. Okay, so very versatile there. And then we have the tambourine, which is great for backbeat stuff. So it can be used from anything from second line, a little bit of samba playing, all right, a little bit of gospel kind of playing, so very useful for that. So let's put a couple other pedals up here, or down here. We'll shift this one to the side. And this one as well. Now I forgot to mention that if you're going to use these pedals with a hi-hat, which you probably will, you need to get one of those two-legged hi-hats, all right? So you can have room in there for the pedals. The one I like is the Tama Iron Cobra pedal. It's the one I use. So let's put these kind of shaker pedals on here. So that's the Cabasa pedal, and here's the Maraca pedal. So you saw this Cabasa pedal in that other video where I played the Mondo snare drum, which is right here, and I was doing something like this. Which happened to be a groove I was working on for one of those tunes on that record I was telling you about. So that's just straight eighths, and what you do in this case is I'm lifting up my foot like this and just doing that. Now you don't want to play this thing flat-footed. There's nothing that happens, okay? So if you have a flat-footed hi-hat technique, you're going to need to change that when you play this cabasa pedal. So you're going to need to lift your heel up about an inch and just use the ball of your foot. And you get that back and forth motion of that cabasa. Now it's not chaka 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 chaka, it's just you get a faint backstroke, okay? The other way to play it is to actually do that splash hi-hat technique, which is, then you can get a really cool kind of like this. So you see there a little bit of clave, but basically I'm just dropping it like that. Okay, it's pretty simple. And I'm trying to play a little softer on here. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. Let's just play a little. I'll mess around with it. So. So there's a mix of 6/8 and 3/4 and some polyrhythms with my left foot, 2 against 3. So it works well for that. It's just not real loud, so you probably want to mic it. Now the maraca pedal is much louder. So you could use sticks for that, and it sounds good. Now, it's not real clean. It almost veers off into the wedding singer thing, you know, where maybe the chick singer is playing maracas, which is always scary. So it's not tight sounding like that cabasa. So you're getting this. But you can do that foot rocking thing that I just showed you. That could sound really cool for like kind of a polyrhythmic thing. Again, two against 3. So it's kind of the spastic foot there where you're just doing that rocking motion. You get some pretty nice effects. But mainly you're going to stick to these kinds of things. Where you're doing particular rhythms, in this case, step by own rhythm. And then you get that residual bounce back of the beats, which sounds pretty cool, pretty organic. Sounds like a couple people are playing there. Now, of course, the straight pattern, which is which I suspect most of you, that's what you would do at first. So if you do that fast, so you get that kind of busy percussion thing happening. So not as useful as the kielbasa pedal because it's a little bit messy, right, with that bounce back. But just experimenting with it, moving that receiver that's on there up and down, you can get some pretty neat effects. I'll do a little solo now and move my foot around so you can get an idea of the possibilities here. So you just work with that and get into the groove of that bounce. You can keep it going. It's a little tricky coordination-wise. The other way to play this is with that rocking motion if you just want to get one stroke. So your heel is going down. Okay, so you see the heels rocking, and then I can get the one stroke followed by a forward motion, which gives me that bop-it-up, bop-it-up, bop-it-up. All right, it's a very tricky little thing. But overall, I like this little box here, and there's a lot of possibilities. You just got to set it up and try to move your foot in some different ways. You'd be surprised what comes out of that, just because of the mechanics of the thing. But once again, you probably need to put some Velcro on it. It will move a little. Now you notice I'm playing most of today with these brooms because that way you can actually hear the pedals. Hopefully they'll come across. Normally I'm playing these things with instruments that I'm just using my hands on, except for the woodblock pedal and the maraca pedal. Those can be used with sticks. They're loud enough.